Now, the Prime Minister visited volunteers in Mudgee today in the west of New South Wales and confirmed that the government will not be changing its climate policy. Now, he's arguing that extreme reactions to the bushfire crisis is not constructive. And he's even replied to young climate protest leader Greta Thunberg, who linked climate inaction to Australia's bushfires in something she tweeted overnight. She said, "Not even catastrophes like these seem to bring any political action. How is this possible? Because we still fail to make the connection between the climate crisis and increased extreme weather events and natural disasters like the Australian fires." Well, here's what the Prime Minister had to say in response.
We'll do in Australia what we think is right for Australia, and that has always been my guiding principle. I'm not here to try and impress people overseas. I'm here to do the right job for Australians and put them first.
Prue, the PM copped this hyperventilating stick wide and far and wide from those who obviously dislike his policy on carbon emissions, and then they've sort of connected that to the fact that he was in Hawaii when we had a bushfire crisis. So he copped that, and then off the back of that, they're all into him once again, and Thunberg as well. Does it not make sense to you that unless we've got America, India and China pulling their weight, we can make no difference whatsoever?
100%. What I don't understand, so you have all these climate change people now protesting. I saw that Gladys Berejiklian was at a fire, a terrible fire.
Fireground today.
Yes. Thank you, that's the word. And there are all these protesters there, and you think, what are they suggesting that they can do? If you believe in climate change, what is going to make the difference when it comes to bushfires and everything? I just don't understand, if they've got a brain, what that brain is suggesting, because there is no connect the dots with it. What we know is that the national parks have been shut up for years. There's fuel on the floor. It's like a tinderbox. You get fined if you want to try and clear your land. Cattle's not allowed in there, and this is why we have this devastation. So how anybody could think that climate change is the reason for the bushfires is just a moron. Yeah,
Jim, we've got a terrible drought that we're witnessing here, probably the worst drought we've had in 100 years. And I get the feeling from the people that I've interviewed on this program last week, even those who were backing on to a national park in Bungendore, they were telling me they've been spending 8 years trying to convince the National Parks and Wildlife Service to start clearing their fire breaks, to create fire trails so that fire, if it ever came to that national park, could be fought properly. Nothing was done because they said to her that we don't have the money to do it.
And it's a real problem out there, Chris, and I think a lot of it comes from the fact that many local governments are dominated by either by the Greens themselves or by people with green credentials and green beliefs. And I was down at Merimbula last week with the acting Prime Minister, Michael McCormack, and we were protested against by climate change activists who just yelled in our faces. Well, that's fantastic. That's their right, and God bless them for doing it. But it doesn't achieve much. When you take it, and as Prue was saying, when the next step that you take with people like that, you say, OK, well, what do you think we should do? They are devoid of any sensible answer. And you're quite right. They take us on, and Greta Thunberg takes us on because she knows that the Indians, the Chinese and the Americans will pay no attention to her at all.
And no attention to Australia if we were to double our emissions or double our reduction of emissions. Now, this is interesting. I'm still on the bushfires because there are so many angles to it today, but how about this for double standards? While Scott Morrison cops plenty for a holiday during bushfire season, Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk has gone fishing while her state burns, but no flack towards her. Yet fires, as I stated last week, are a state government responsibility. Can you understand why she's not copping it?
Well, you can, because the lefties are the ones who are making this big noise. You know, it's interesting to me that they've picked on Morrison. I mean, they're trending now to get him to resign. They then also, on the news tonight, were saying that...
Jim's laughing in the background.
I know.
Yeah, should he resign this afternoon,
Jim,
before the sun goes down?
But they're also having a go at him that it's a publicity stunt, that he's going to see the fires. And he can't win.
You can't have it both ways. You can't criticise him for not being here and then criticise him for turning up.
The only thing I can think is... I was just going to...
You can do that on Twitter.
Yeah, oh, you can. You can do it. But I just think the reason... I was trying to think, why have they got it in for him so much? And part of the reason why I'm annoyed with him is because I think that we had incredible excitement and expectations when he was elected. There is a perception he hasn't done enough...
Of the big stuff.
Of the big stuff, the dams, the drought in particular. And I know that a lot of money has been given to the drought. Lots of opportunities for farmers to go into more debt with loans. What we all know and see every night on the news is farmers who can't bathe their kids, who stop dying, farmers committing suicide. And I know we discussed this last week, but Jimmy, I wouldn't care if you, as a producer, a primary producer, was handed, you know, 50 grand. I don't care, and I think the average Australian doesn't care about the means test. We want money to hit those people now. We want freight free. We want water to be delivered and food to be delivered free so they can get off their knees.
And is that the message that you're getting, Jim, or do you think widely that most people on the land are happy with the way the government's reacted?
Oh, no, I think that there is a lot of noise out there that is disconcerted. That is a view that the government is not doing enough, and I keep, I understand that view. I watched someone on TV tonight who was standing by his house that was burning down, and he gave the government a burst.
Yeah,
it didn't
I saw
matter
that
what
too.
Government it was.
Yeah.
It was any government. He gave us a burst, and I feel for him, and I understand why he did it. I lost a house in 1983. Or 4, whenever it was, in the Adelaide Hills. And, I would have liked everyone to have done some more on that occasion. But I do... it'd be lovely to give everything. It goes along the idea of paying our volunteers, our volunteer firemen. And, yeah, maybe that's a way to do it, but now is not the time to go through that. Let's save that for the Royal Commission. I gave evidence at the 2009... the Royal Commission for the 2009 Black Saturday, I think it was called, bushfires in Victoria, on crisis management. And that's the time to go through those events at the wash-up at the end. At the moment, I think we are getting the money out. We're getting it where it's needed, and some people will say, oh, I'm not, we're not getting it, it's not needed. I was down at the Bega Shire Valley Council. They got $1 million when the drought kicked off. And
but what are they building, Jimmy?
Another $1 million.
Jimmy, are they building glass? Are they building fences and roads? What worries me is it's given to the council. What the hell is the council doing with it? We want it to go to the farmers.
Certainly down in Bega, the council are doing very, very practical things with it. But in addition, the money is going to farmers. I don't know whether it's going to every deserving farmer, but I think that the government does have a responsibility, as I said last week. The government does have a responsibility to make sure that it gets to the farmers who need it.